Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Decatorish Download. I'm your host, editor, and founder, Dan Wisenhunt. We got a great show for you tonight. DeKalb County Commissioner Ted Terry is going to join us. I'm also going to have a few things to say at the end of our show about journalism and the state of journalism and some messages for our friends who are facing a really tough time in the journalism biz right now. You're also going to hear from our sponsors this week, Pastries A Go Go. Let's join Ted Terry. Commissioner Terry, how are you this evening?
Doing good. Good evening, Dan.
Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us and making time out of your evening to be with us and answer questions from our listeners. If you are watching us online and you have a question for Commissioner Ted Terry, please let us know in the comments, either on YouTube or Facebook. And the big reason we're here is Ted Terry has been pushing this resolution, and it's a non-binding resolution, really, because the federal government supersedes all. But the resolution is a more of a position statement, asking Immigration and Customs Enforcement to basically leave DeKalb County. Talk to us about where this resolution came from and where it currently stands in the legislative process, Ted.
Thank you, Dan, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak about it. So I, like probably millions of Americans, were enjoying a quiet weekend earlier this year when we saw footage of Renee Nicole Good be shot 3 times by a federal ICE officer in what could arguably just be described as a situation that got way escalated, way out of hand really quickly, and ended with an American citizen dying at the hands of an ICE agent. And so at the time, the was one, just heartbroken that someone had died in that way, and that we and the world witnessed it, on our phones and our screens, and seeing what we saw, and just like, is no matter how many times you slow it down or speed it up, from my point of view, everything about what happened was wrong. And because those tactics, they call it the Metro Surge, these militarized dragnet operations, the ones that are just like literally in neighborhoods, in streets, are the instigating factor of what caused all of that to happen. And so I felt it was important for DeKalb County, being a county that is the second most diverse county in Georgia, next to Gwinnett. But a lot of folks started in DeKalb and they moved to Gwinnett as they, grew in their agency as new Americans. But we're 20% foreign born. 1 in 5 of our neighbors is an immigrant or a refugee, and at different levels of status, and many in a caught up in a broken immigration system. Many folks who were here for asylum, for temporary protected status, who have now become quote unquote illegal under the administration and ICE's interpretation of what's the law says. And so it was important for me to introduce this, to one, just to speak out and acknowledge that someone had died, and that's awful. And we, our thoughts and prayers and our hopes are that, something like that never happens again. But then to also acknowledge that ICE has been here in DeKalb since the Trump administration began, second term, and that they were always coming. The scaling up of force, the all the thousands of commercials promising $50,000 bonuses, stealing police officers from local police departments to go work for ICE, ramping up that, doing all these trainings. Some didn't, probably shouldn't have gotten through the training, but got approved anyways. And now they're surging, and they were already surging in Minneapolis, Chicago. They were planning for Maine. We saw, I think, a week ago, 50 SUVs with ICE, branded tags rolling into College Park. And so ICE was already coming. They were already on their way. And so it was important for us to just simply, that's the line in the sand. And so um, when you know when Preeti died, when Good died, when it became when things were being escalated, I knew that we had to say something, because when you do not speak out, especially when leaders are acting like authoritarians and when their policies are leading towards authoritarian policies, what they want you to do is to be so fearful that you will stay silent. And if you stay silent, then one, you're letting them continue on as if everything was fine. That's like the best. At the worst, you're complicit.
Let's talk
And
about where the
people will
commission
wonder,
is with it,
okay,
because you introduced this resolution. The commission seems like it has a to-do list that is yay high. There's a lot of things that get deferred and delayed. You introduced this. I'm not a polling expert, but from what I understand, the polling on all of this is really bad, particularly among Democrats. And all of the county commissioners up there are Democrats. And three of them, I know, have got to run for reelection this year. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of urgency on the commission right now to pass this, and it seems there's an overwhelming number of their constituents who want this passed. So why is this still being talked about?
well, I mean, I can just recount sort of what was discussed at the public meetings from my colleagues. I think all of them, had comments at least over the last couple of weeks as we were talking about this on our agenda. And, I think there is a general concern that if you speak up, it's kind of like whack-a-mole. Now you're raising your hand saying we are challenging Trump, and so therefore he's gonna bop you on the head and take away all your grant money, send even more agents to DeKalb, and now we're really a target. And my humble message of what I said out there is they're already here. We're already a target. It's already happening. It's been happening. Nothing was going to change that. And this is literally now the moment to speak up and to stand up and to get in the way. And I like to say I like to get in good trouble. This is, you can't like exist in like I'm an elder millennial, Dan. But I was given the message for since my childhood days in school from my mother, from my community that that we are here to fight for justice. We are here to be involved in our political system and to get into good trouble. And getting in good trouble means sometimes, you get hit and you get in trouble, but it's good trouble because it's the right thing to do. And again, if you don't say anything, ain't no one gonna think there's a problem. And I guarantee you, people in DeKalb County believe there is a problem. There was last year with the ICE enforcement and the arresting of the journalist. That was our initial foray into this situation because ICE had been on Chamblee Dunwoody or Chamblee Tucker Road, in Embry Hills. People were sending videos of tactical enforcement operations that were, way, way beyond what they had ever done in the past.
It does feel like at a certain level, not just our elected leaders, our business leaders as well. Everybody has sort of surrendered in advance, and it does not feel like appeasement in this situation has really worked because the aggression hasn't dialed back. If anything, it's escalated. Now, Steve Bannon is talking about having ICE agents at polling places. I mean, what are the odds that a swing state like Georgia and a county like DeKalb are going to see some of that in the coming elections? Do y'all have any thoughts on that? I mean, are y'all getting any word about what the risks might be? I mean, we've got midterms coming up; they're pretty important. Um,
Well, the biggest threat they're doing right now is in the General Assembly with this requirement to have hand marked ballots on election day. And I think all the folks who have to run elections, and then of course folks like me who have to vote to fund them, are like that was going to cost millions of dollars. Like the amount of person power that would need to be marshaled to if they passed this law, and they had it on a committee on Monday, but they pulled it at the last minute because everyone came to the Capitol, and I think I saw Senator Ossoff at the Capitol Monday morning, like preparing to speak out about this election. They're trying to change the election laws during an election season. We're
right.
literally going to have like qualifying is in March, which is when the election really begins, honestly and earnestly. And they're poised to change the rules while the game is in progress. And
How
the
how
biggest threat
realistic is
is
that? How realistic is that? I mean, you think
I
they'll be able to affect change because it's going to affect the Republican candidates too, right? I mean, it's going to be
It's
chaos
it's
both ways.
it's no, I mean, well, to be honest, these election laws are targeted at large counties
Hmm.
because they know running our I mean, when you have 10,000 people or 50,000 people in your county, which that's the majority of counties, population size, running elections is different than 700,000 people and hundreds of polling locations and early vote sites and distance to travel. And it's the logistics of running election has already gotten expensive. Like everything they've done in the last several years has made the running of elections be like, I think we're probably going to spend $17 million this year on our elections. When I first came on the board, it was closer to 7 million.
Hmm.
And it's just gotten more expensive, not because of anything that there's nothing fundamentally different about the electorate. It's just all of these additional things they make us do that are ostensibly about election security, but are really just about appeasing, a narcissist who has a conspiracy theory. That's why
This
they're in
is
Fulton, and
this
the
is
rest is they want to bog us down. They want to bog us down.
Yeah, that I hear what you're saying. I wanted to just point out we got some questions coming in on the chat, and I don't want to forget
Let's
to
hear them.
address those. If
Yeah.
you're watching this right now live, this is the Decatorish Download. We stream every Thursday night right here on Facebook and YouTube at 7 o'clock. If you have a question, let us know. Joyce asks, "How do we determine how our specific commissioner leans on the resolution you've put forward?
Ye-
How can they get a sense of where they stand on it?"
I mean, I always encourage everyone just to email their commissioners. In DeKalb, everyone has two commissioners, one super and then one district commissioner. So, like, honestly, I would ask them. I don't want to speak for them, but everyone was very positive at the last meeting, and I was taking friendly amendments. That's kind of just a Robert's Rules of Order thing, where if you want to like tweak, a resolution or a bill, you can take friendly amendments. So I had like three, maybe four friendly amendments from my colleagues who said, "Hey, like I want to just add this in here." That way, it was really everyone's had an input into it. I mean, I was always welcome to take input, and I appreciated that input. So I feel like we're there. We just have like this other thing lurking in the background of, oh, what if? But will we get punished for doing this? And I think that's still in folks' minds. In fact, actually, it was said at one of the meetings. I'm worried, like I support this, but I'm worried that we're going to get attacked for it. That's what one of my colleagues
I
said.
think you're going to get punished either way. I
Yeah,
think
we've been being punished.
Yeah, I
It's
don't think
and
that's the right question. I mean, you're going to get punished either way. It's just,
I don't know.
I guess, a matter of degrees or magnitude. So we got this resolution that's going to come back before the commission Tuesday. What are the odds that this is going to be voted on? Do you think?
Well, one thing that I did, so it's changed a little bit. We added in sort of the Preti, but the other thing that did get communicated to me was, it was from my colleagues, so I really like listened to them. They were concerned that we were just simply posturing. We're just saying a bunch of nice words and condolences, and what next? What else are we going to do? And the board of commissioners, we have like one fundamental thing, and that's appropriating money. Like we have to approve the budget, and it's a $1.9 billion budget this year. So I'm proposing, and this is the substitute that I shared on Tuesday with my colleagues, is a budget allocation and we're just starting out at $250,000. I'm open to more, which is like basically like 0.001% of our budget. So it's small, but an allocation to immigrant and refugee serving organizations that work in DeKalb County every single day. Folks are losing SNAP benefits because of their immigration status. Some people are not able to go to work, and so just basic utility assistance, rental assistance, healthcare, food, medicine, all the basics for thousands of people. Some who are refugees and are completely allowed to be here are suffering, and then other undocumented or other TPS. I mean, we had Haitians, Somali, Afghani, folks who were temporary protected status, and now all that's being chipped away at. And so they're really struggling right now. These people that have lived in our community for years, if not decades, who are part of our community, and they are really at a dead end. And so we want to help them. So that's the idea is let's put our money where our mouth is. Let's not just say a bunch of things. Let's put our money into the situation. It's a small amount, but we can build on it.
Everyone, if you're just joining us, I'm here with DeKalb County Commissioner Ted Terry. We're talking about the ICE resolution. We're going to talk about data centers in a minute and a couple of other things. But before we move on to the next topic, I want to tell you about our sponsor tonight, Pastries A Go Go. It's a great restaurant in downtown Decatur. I've been going there for years. They have espresso drinks now. I tried one of those the other day, and let me tell you, it is spot on. It is delicious. They are doing a great job over there. And for February, they have little heart-shaped biscuits, y'all. They're real cute. They want you to know about them. They want you to go get them. Pastries A Go Go, downtown Decatur, sponsor of the Decatur-ish Download. Commissioner Terry, talk to me about data centers. We've spent a lot of oxygen on that on this show as well, and that is another one of the things on the county's to-do pile. And there were some regulations that were being discussed. Those have been put off until I don't know if it's the Ellenwood data center that's been postponed until after the election or the
Both.
regulation. Both. Okay.
Mhm.
So this is not going to be. You're not going to have to take a vote on this before. Well, you're not running, but your colleagues want to take a vote before they run again. Where are we with this? Because there seems to be a belief that the county has no ability to stop data centers, and that they have to pass these regulations because if they don't, people are going to build data centers however they want, and there's going to be no guardrails. I'm skeptical of
Mhm.
that, but I wanted to get your take.
Yeah, I mean, it is true that you can't have a moratorium forever. In fact, I think state law generally permits a 12-month moratorium for reasonable purposes, like updating an ordinance, for instance, right? Which is literally what that was the instigation for me introducing the moratorium in July of last year, because I heard that there might be some data centers proposed in the county, and then I and the planning department said we believe this is going to happen, and we need to update our code because there's nothing in the code that says what a data center is. And so you're right. What it basically would have allowed is someone to kind of sneak in under a existing code that didn't quite fit, but it's a legal process, and you have to make it fit even if the zoning code doesn't match it. You have to make it fit somewhere. So the moratorium was important because the last 6 months of 2025, I think we had probably like 25 community meetings between community council planning, and so there was a lot of really good um, public comment in the sense of I'm worried about these worst possible scenarios of data centers. They're going to pollute the air, they're going to poison the water, they're going to be really loud, they're going to be monstrosities, they're going to take the power away. So there's been great diligence and care to factor into our local laws prohibitions on all the things that are the worst aspects of a data center. And so for my part, I pushed really hard on the environmental protections. To me, that was like the thing that I thought we could really make the biggest difference on. And so I think we've sort of maxed out the most of what we can do within reason, but I'm still pushing for 3 amendments to the planning department's proposal, which would cap the size, because right now there is no cap in terms of square footage. You could build a 1 million or a 6 million square foot facility. Those things are huge. I mean, 6 million actually be almost the largest if that ever got built. So that's a cap. A special land use permit for every application, which basically means every site has to go through a public process, and it has to be a public vote from the commissioners with recommendations from community council and planning commission. And that is like a fundamental thing. I had a conference call with the National Association of County Officials. I'm on like the Energy and Land Use Environment Committee, and the county chair of Loudoun County, Virginia, the data center capital of the world, basically talked about their white paper they produced for counties to prepare for data centers. And number one thing he said, make everything a special land use permit because every site is different. You can't, it's hard to make one county code that will fit every situation. And within that SLUP, that we call it a SLUP, additional conditions can be negotiated to the extent that if those conditions are violated, you can lose the permit and you can lose your right to do business. And so that's like the ultimate, stick. And there's a couple other renewable energy carrots in there. If you do X number of renewable energy on
But
site, or if you power it, you
there's
know.
no way for the county to say we just don't want data centers and you can't build them here. End of story. There's no legal way for the county to do that, is what you're telling me.
I believe that we can cap the size of them,
But
which
you
I thought,
can't
which
stop them. You can't stop them completely. You can't say there is no legal way to build a data center in DeKalb County. You cannot build them
mm-mm.
here.
No, I
You
don't
and
believe
what?
there's any way to ban a use unless
And,
you have to have like a reason that's a nuisance that can be justified in court. And there's just not, I don't think there's enough case law right now to prove a data center is like a strip club, for instance, or as an asphalt plant. But even in DeKalb, you can build an asphalt plant in some manufacturing and industrial zones.
I think that's where a lot of people are getting hung up on this because I think we as taxpayers and citizens we elect you all. I believe you're my commissioner, and
Mhm.
we put you up there, and we expect you to represent us. And the polling on the data centers thing is really bad, and in a bipartisan way, I might add. It's not just
Yeah,
yeah.
it
That's
is.
what's
More
really
Republicans
fast.
are against data centers than
Yeah,
Democrats.
it is fascinating, and yet even with all of that discontent and disagreement, we find it perplexing when our commissioners who have power tell us they actually don't have power. That's a hard thing for us to wrap our heads around.
Yeah, I understand. Trust me, there's some things I wish we had the power to do, and I joke all the time. I'm like, I tell like just tell Washington, send DeKalb County all the money, we will solve all the problems. But they ain't gonna do that. They have to go through all the bureaucratic steps. So I mean, we live in the system to which we live in,
Sure.
and private property rights are very strong in case law in Georgia. So you have to have a reason to ban something. And look, that being said, that's why there is lots of precedent for distance requirements, size caps, land development standards. That's another big piece of the ordinance. A lot of it's actually how you develop the actual land of a data center. And the biggest buffers, I mean, these are some of the biggest buffers. Some of the zones are 500 feet. And also they have to have a lower noise footprint than the standard manufacturing and industrial. So we're actually holding them to a little bit of higher standard than even the industrial areas that where,
Dread
if you
Star
could build something.
Dread Star on YouTube asks, can they be banned at the state level?
I believe so, actually. Yeah, I think State Rep Rua Roman, who's running for governor, has introduced legislation to do a statewide moratorium for 1 year. However, that will probably not pass. And Shay Roberts, I talked to her last week, and she's looking at introducing legislation that would require a special land use permit for every application. Now, here's the thing: a special land use permit is special. You do not have to approve a special land use permit. And that's all
So
I'll say, Dan. I won't
Georgette,
say anything else.
Georgette, who's a viewer of the show, thank you for joining us again, Georgette. Uh, Georgette asks, how will any regulations on data centers actually be enforced, and who would monitor them?
Well, so number one, the development of the land is a building inspection, land development inspection process, and any big development like that, if it was a data center, would have like regular visits from the planning department's inspectors. So that's stormwater, that's temporary, catchments. There's a lot of standards that we just help, require for any development. Um, the biggest thing that has been brought up that I am concerned about that I would like to try to address is if a data center is using like the immersion cooling technology where they're like basically submerging the servers in like a coolant oil, is how do they dispose and recycle the coolant oil, because that's something we don't want to put into the wastewater stream, because then we got to process it at snap finger, and we don't want them to dump it out into the river. And there's always a possibility that someone is a bad actor. So part of the goal of what I would like to see is a regular inspection regimen a reporting requirement and an independent audit. And so that way you just have layers of compliance. And look, I mean, the whole part of the special land use permit, this is the key here, Dan. If you have conditions that require certain things and you don't follow them, you have the ability to enforce additional penalties or even revoke a permit. So there's a real, if you lose your license to do business, you can't operate a data center, you can't operate the business, you can't make money. That's the biggest backstop we have.
Commissioner, we are close to the end of our show. It has flown by. We are in a pretty interesting year. It's going to be contentious. I'm sure we got elections coming up. You were not running, but you were pretty heavily involved in the political process. What are some things that are on your radar as we head into the balance, I guess, of 2026?
It's a big year, Dan. Senator John Ossoff is up for reelection. We're going to have governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, secretary of state, public service commission. Peter Hubbard just got elected as our public service commissioner in Metro Atlanta, but he only got a 1 year term, so he has to run for a full 6 year term. So I've been like very involved in helping him out. And then the other seat, the Cobb County kind of West Georgia seat, is up for election. That's Trisha Pridemore, and the person that Peter Hubbard beat, Fitz Johnson, who was our commissioner for 5 years and voted to raise our rates, like 7 times, he's announced he's running for reelection. So the people that voted to raise our power bills, approved 10,000 megawatts of dirty energy, mostly dirty energy for Georgia Power to power data centers, are on the ballot this year. And I really hope that we can flip the Public Service Commission, because that commission has been hamstrung for many decades, going back to when David Burgess was the last Democrat from our district on the PSC. And there is no representation for the people until just this last, really this last month, when Dr. Alicia Johnson and Peter Hubbard came in. So those are all important. And then certainly, county commission, uh, like you said earlier, Dan, DeKalb is a Democratic county. The commissioners will be elected in the May primary. There's probably not going to be Republican challenging them. If there are, they unlikely to win. So the primary is very important if you care about county commission elections and the things that we were all just talking about.
Commissioner, what are you doing as a commissioner to ensure that we have free and fair elections in DeKalb County this year? Because there are people who are talking not so subtly about interfering with that process.
That's a great question, Dan. The number one thing I'm first concerned about is ensuring the elections department has all the resources they need to conduct that free and fair election. And again, like I said, they're making these elections more expensive, so we have to prepare, probably over prepare. But look, the bottom line is that we need to be ready for anything. And I can't speak right now about what options we have to protect those elections, but ask me in a couple months, and hopefully there will be a plan, because I think at this point folks are planning contingencies for the things that you were warning about: ICE showing up at polling locations, the military being called into certain counties or certain states. For what? I don't know. Is it posturing? I don't know. I don't want to take anything for granted. Don't take anything to chance. I think we should all be as awake as we possibly can.
Commissioner, thank you so much for joining us. And I think you're already inviting yourself to join us again on a
Sure.
future episode. So we'd love to have you back. This is the Decatur-ish Download Show. We stream on Facebook and YouTube Live every Thursday at 7 p.m. Our episode is available as a podcast next day via the App and Media Podcast Network. And I wanted to just pause here for just a second, because I've got some things on my mind regarding this journalism and the state of journalism. I know a lot of my viewers are plugged in and avid readers and fans of publications like the Washington Post and the Atlanta Journal Constitution. And this week we received some very sad news that some of our colleagues at the Atlanta Journal Constitution are going to lose their jobs. I have a pretty good idea of who some of them are, just through deduction, not through any special secret sauce. But it's gonna hurt, and it's gonna be a real detriment to our community. the community places a lot of trust in us to tell their stories, and it's a privilege to do that. When we lose the people telling those stories, we lose trust. And that is the thing that I think is so missed when we talk about these layoffs, is that the thing that we're selling to our audience, what we're monetizing, is the relationship that we have with them. And that relationship exists because we show up. And you can't show up more by reducing the number of people you have to show up in these situations. I'm getting a lot of inquiries right now from people who are upset and scared, people who are wondering what's going to happen next, and they have a right to feel those things. Uh, I would sell any journalist right now, um, who is worried about their future, that you are not the problem. The industry has failed you. Leaders in our industry across the board have failed to take the steps that they need to take to get us prepared for what's coming, and are instead kind of reacting to things that are 20 years old at this point. I don't want to get off on a soapbox about it, but I do want anyone who's watching this to know, if you're a journalist and you're feeling sad or upset or angry right now, I get it and I understand it. And please know that what is happening right now is not a reflection on you. It's a reflection on the industry. And I wish you all the best. That is the Decatur-ish Download Show this Thursday, February 5th. We will be back next week, guest to be determined. Until then, we hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Stay warm. It should be a little nicer this weekend, so hopefully we'll be able to enjoy it a little bit more. Stay warm, stay safe, and we'll see you again next Thursday right here on the Decatur-ish Download.